it sounds good on paper, like, oh, I'm going to know so much about this lead, so I'll be able to target them better. Yeah, but if they all click off after the third question, you're not going to get a lead at all. A lot of these clients, they're not even ready for AI yet. If you're a generalist, you'll be a lot more effective and impactful.
Envyro is an AI automations agency delivering AI solutions to over 50 clients in business, legal, and public sector teams. Their systems handle thousands of conversations and workflows monthly and have helped save their clients over 5,000 hours of manual work so far. But at the core of Envyro's business model is education, adapting to the changing landscape by learning new technologies, familiarizing themselves with the industries they're working with to build effective automations, and educating clients on getting the most out of their automations. In this interview, Matea and I talk about the opportunity that AI presents for developers and businesses alike, and why it takes more than enthusiasm to make a business AI ready. I'm Ben Lux, and this is Built with BotPress. First of all, welcome, Matea. I wanted to start off just by asking, for those of you who are unfamiliar, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Envyro?
Yeah. So I have a pretty extensive software engineering background, computer science background. About 2-3 years ago, I started our AI agency, Envyro. This was really when the kind of generative AI boom really took off. And like you probably see it just as much as I do. Things change so quickly. So it was really interesting, and they still kind of do now. But at least now we're a little more adapted to all the changes. So we build, custom AI agents, chatbots, voice agents. We do a lot of custom code solutions as well, integrations for any softwares that companies need. Typically we work with enterprise, small to medium-sized businesses, really all sorts of industries. We've noticed there's no need to really niche down to a specific industry because a lot of these tools apply to every industry. So it's mostly just about understanding the specific customer's problem. And then you'll probably notice that someone else has had that same problem, so you can just apply the same thing. We discovered BotPress about maybe 1 to 2 years ago now. And we noticed it was really nice for building chatbots earlier on. Now it's it's way more expanded than that, to kind of overall AI agents. And we love that it's open source in terms of building integrations, and the whole team is so accessible, and on the Discord and the overall community. So it's been great building with BotPress.
Yeah, very cool. So you said that you were basically in the AI agent game before you found BotPress.
Yeah.
And the thought of doing anything before having access to BotPress, I tried out AutoGPT back in my first internship, or in the few months after ChatGPT came out. And that could build a to-do list, and that was about it. What were some of the struggles you went through trying to figure out how to do autonomous agents or AI agents before having a platform like BotPress?
Yeah, so earlier on, what really caught my eye initially was kind of all the RAG chatbot capabilities, but a lot of them you kind of had to build out yourself with like LangChain and all these custom libraries using Python. And it was super early on where these SaaSes started getting released, where you could kind of just upload a PDF and start chatting with your files, things like that. It was just super early though, and a lot of the platforms were just kind of younger people or entrepreneurs kind of launching a little SaaS. And it was really hard to see what's going to last, especially if you're building something for a long-term customer. You don't want to build something that's like on shifting sand. So earlier on, it was just me experimenting a bunch, but it was harder to find something that might be reliable for the long term. And then eventually, once things kind of played out a little bit, you could see who the bigger players are. Like one of them being BotPress. It was easier to kind of pick them and stay with them for the longer term.
Yeah. Is it nerve-wracking at the beginning when you're like, I don't know how much support these technologies are going to have down the line? If your customers are going to be knocking at your door being like, hey, it's broken.
Yeah, it's super chaotic. And to be honest, it's still chaotic now because things still change so quickly. But yeah, earlier on, it was extremely chaotic, and you have no idea what's even going to be relevant. Not even like you could trust some of the companies, but if their tool that they're building is obsolete in a month, it doesn't matter how trustworthy they are, because they're going to have to completely shift their business model. And if they're not willing to shift it, then you're out of luck kind of. So
that's what's cool about the AI space, is that anybody building in it, it's new for everybody, which means everybody relatively recently has had to make pretty big strides and pretty big shifts about the business model that they were operating in.
Yeah, it's true. It's really hard to predict. So Maybe in a few years it'll get to a point where it kind of levels out a little bit, but for now it's super rapid.
So on that note, I'm wondering if you can kind of give us a brief, like the tale of how Envyro got started and what got you into this.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I always just like building stuff on my own. Like before, I worked a job as a software engineer, and I kind of got a little bored of the monotonous kind of aspect of, just completing work, like tickets over and over and over. And when AI really just started, I could just tell AI is going to be a huge thing. So that was really the main driver for me. Is I just knew I had to hedge my bet on AI because I just wanted to go all in on it. It was obvious that that's where the next kind of revolution is going to be in terms of the internet, technology, and it just seemed like a no-brainer to me personally. Obviously, it's risky and it's chaotic and it's a little scary, but to me, it was a no-brainer personally for the type of personality type I am. I just needed to dive into it. So,
Was it hard getting those first few customers?
it was. The thing is, I shifted eventually really quickly my approaches, and for me, it wasn't too bad in that sense because I was able to kind of be dynamic. I was open to, working with some people maybe at a discounted rate or just kind of trying to learn their industry. Some people I just try to talk to for free and then they would just offer to pay me. So, I mean, a lot of it was just kind of trying to be, a normal human and just trying to actually learn about what people are going through. And then if you approach it that way, you'll notice people are really willing to actually work with you, collaborate, and offer you work eventually.
Okay. I kind of want to drill into a little bit of the more specifics. Can you talk about where you were at, what you were doing when you first started breaking into having these clients and doing AI automations for them?
Yeah, so a lot of it initially was kind of just because I noticed really quickly a lot of these clients, they're not even ready for AI yet. They kind of just needed to sort out their software first of all. So they might be using some ancient CRM or something, or they might not be using any software at all. Like some people are still on pen and paper. So that's like always step one for us is just making sure that they're able to utilize AI. So getting all their software stack set up. From there, it's starting to set up, automations and integrations between all their softwares to make sure everything's interconnected. And then that was really after that step is where AI kind of comes in. You can use it as a glue in between a lot of these softwares. And on top of it, for example, like a customer lead chatbot, on their landing page. And now you can start actually inputting those customers into an actual CRM. You can run like follow-up automations with emails, text messages, things like that. So I noticed approaching it in a really kind of modular step-by-step way to make sure they can actually make use of it instead of just jumping right into like AI, because a lot of these customers are excited and they want to make use of AI, but realistically, a lot of them aren't even ready for it. So you have to kind of go step by step.
Yeah, that's I noticed that you mentioned something there in leads in general, that it kind of sounds like that's a place that you can tackle for other people, because if
Yeah.
somebody's busy working out the pen and paper thing, they do not have a pipeline set up for lead generation. And if I'm not mistaken, lead generation is the primary service that people reach out to you for.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I mean, of course, everyone benefits when they get more leads, they can make more money. So that's usually the first step we kind of try to look for is if we can just help a client get more leads.
Do you think on any level that is kind of one of the bigger opportunities? Because frankly, if you just don't have business coming in, you don't have business. And
100%. Yeah. I mean, a lot of customers want to use AI and they want to AI their business. Some of them say they kind of think it's like a black box of magic where you can just throw AI at your business and it'll just make you a ton of money. But you have to think about it rationally. Like you need more customers. Now you can use AI to get new customers, but it's not like you can just throw AI at your business. You have to be smart about it. And you have to think of it something as a manual process that would get you customers, but now just automate it with AI. So that's how we approach it.
I'm getting a sense of the personality type you're targeting, which is somebody who's enthusiastic about AI, but also maybe a little bit overwhelmed by the landscape.
100%. Yeah, that's really the biggest archetype for the most part. People that they've heard about AI, they know a little bit. They know it can help them. They're just not sure yet, and they are overwhelmed. They're not sure what platforms to use. They don't want to invest all this time building these tools too, because I mean, a lot of these platforms are great and they're beginner friendly. Even BotPress, for example, like a beginner could start and build their own chatbot in maybe 30 to 50 minutes. But the reality is, if you want it to scale and you want it to be maintainable for the long term, you're going to have some like domain knowledge of the platform. So that's why it's always better to kind of outsource that to another agency developer or just even a team member if they do have developers. But a lot of these clients, they don't want to dedicate separate resources because they'll have to train their team and go from there. Right? So.
Yeah. So On the topic of lead generation, do you think that you have a fundamental difference about how you think about the art or the craft of lead generation as opposed to people who haven't yet adopted AI?
Yeah, for sure. Because with AI, if you kind of just let it do its thing, you'll realize you'll lose a lot of potential leads and customers. There's a very specific way you have to go about it. You can't introduce a lot of friction. So like some people will try to set up maybe a 10 to 20 step chatbot where they ask for a bunch of information. It sounds good on paper, like, oh, I'm going to know so much about this lead, so I'll be able to target them better. Yeah, but if they all click off after the third question, you're not going to get a lead at all. So simple things like that is you have to really kind of use the chatbot to experience it yourself. So it's not as easy as just kind of letting the AI do its thing. You have to be very specific about it.
I want to say that conventionally, and you could tell me if you agree, conventionally, we think about lead generation as targeting a profile. And the way you're describing it, and the advantage that AI gives you, is that lead generation can target behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah. And the nice thing about AI is you can adapt to those behaviors mid-conversation. So you can tell if a customer's maybe interested in something a little different than your main offer, but they're still interested. You can dynamically adapt on the go. And it's not just like a hard-coded flow in like a basic chatbot from like 5-10 years ago. It uses AI now. So it makes it way easier to be dynamic, and you have to be dynamic so you can really accept all types of different customers for your specific business.
You know what? I noticed that, for instance, in language learning, I found AI to be so advantageous because I'll say, hey, give me a sentence in Dutch. And then I don't understand a word. And I'm like, don't translate this word, but give me 20 idiomatic sentences that contain this word. And then I find that a much more like natural osmotic way of learning a certain aspect of language. And the more you're describing lead generation, I kind of see that being the same thing. You're like, just what you have ultimately in aggregate is a bunch of different behaviors and a bunch of different outcomes. This person clicked, this person signed up, and also the history of their behavior with the chatbot. And I'm wondering if basically, are you having any fun playing around with this and finding out if like new insights in lead generation based on people's behaviors?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, because there's a ton of context and nuance, like you're mentioning, if someone is coming in from a different source. So instead of just, having a separate rigid flow, you're able to adapt the personality, the tone of the AI prompts for the chatbot completely. And it matches their behavior, like you're saying. So that's a huge one as well, right? So being able to adapt to the customer's exact personality type. That helps a ton.
Yeah. Was there a moment for you that it clicked that you said, I think AI is at the place where I can achieve something going on in my head?
Yeah, to be honest, just the early days of kind of playing with ChatGPT, it was, just kind of clicked in your brain. Now it gets even crazier with all the new models, the reasoning models and everything coming out. It is a little scary, of course, but it gets scary that things will become obsolete really quickly, but it's just part of the game.
That is adaptation. And what AI, like you say you come from a software engineering background, and I do feel that people with software backgrounds, I think we underestimate how much there is a software know-how involved in using and adopting AI. Even, oh, I'm nervous, you're frozen. Okay, you're back.
Yeah, lots of
So, I mean, what I think about, for instance, is basically just sort of hedging ChatGPT to be able to achieve the thing that you're trying to do. For my dad, his stance on ChatGPT is, and I quote, "It doesn't work for me." He goes, "It doesn't do the thing I'm trying to get it to do." And I try to kind of pry out, like, what are you trying to get it to do? And he's a little unclear on it. And that's the moment that I realized that people like you are needed to usher other people who have this fear of falling into obsolescence because they're struggling to adopt AI. Which kind of brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is you seem to be very big on education in a lot of senses. You're teaching folks like me, like other people who are interested in the technicalities of AI, how to use it, stuff like HubSpot, integrations and things like that. And I also noticed from the testimonials on your website, there is a lot of people making a point of mentioning that you really sat with them and you said, well, here's how you work with it and here's how you make this software work for you. I'm wondering how early into the process you recognized that education was going to be such a big part of your service.
Yeah, very early on, because we learned really quickly that if you don't educate your client, first of all, they're going to have misaligned expectations potentially. And there's a lot of like unspoken things. Like, for example, I already know that my client doesn't yet. So I need to make a point of telling them, right? Because they might think AI can do anything in the whole wide world, but obviously we're not completely there yet. So you do have to align some expectations there. Also, when we've noticed a lot of times that when we do educate the client, it opens a lot of doors that they might not have thought about yet. But now that you've educated them, they realize, oh, that could help for this as well in my business. And that might be something that they haven't brought up yet to us. But once we've told them about this potential capability or feature, now it kind of clicks in their brain and they're like, oh, can you automate this too? Like, this is literally the exact same thing we need for this department. And then that's another project, right there. So if you educate them, they'll open up a lot of doors. And it's also just everyone's more comfortable when they understand because it's scary just having AI running your business. You don't know exactly how it works, right? So you have to educate the customer to some extent. So
Yeah, this is a very like the rising ship or rising tide lifts all ships situation. It's you don't want your knowledge and your expertise with AI to be like locked behind your own, I don't know, knowledge, locked behind your person. You want it helps you if other people understand and if other people effectively could, in theory, do what you do because they can't in practice do what you do. You have a whole business around it. You're not just prompting ChatGPT.
yeah.
I think that's
The way I look at it is, I mean, like we're completely open with everything we know. So if we say something and they think like, oh, we could do it ourselves, I say go for it. If you think you can do it, that's amazing. It's great. The reality is most of the times they'll run into like some roadblocks which they didn't expect. And they sit at a keyboard for 20 hours, banging their head. But you're completely right. You have to be open, and then it just helps everyone.
Mm-hmm. Were there, when you were first building it and kind of setting up the infrastructure that you now have, were there these huge challenges that made you go, oh, I don't know if this is going to work the way I thought it was going to?
All the time. It just you just have to start some of these projects, and it can be done. You just don't know exactly how it's going to be done. And sometimes, of course, you have to adapt a little bit. You have to be able to pivot. But as long as the customer is still happy and they get their kind of desired end result, even if it's not done exactly the way they envisioned, a lot of customers and clients they're very forgiving and comfortable with changes because they understand for the most part that it is a very new space and it's not an employee that's a human that you can control to a T. So they're very happy just to get, even if it's just 98, 99% of their desired, and maybe that little 1%, it can be a little of a gray area, but they're still happy with that.
Yeah, you know what? It sounds like the customers understand that they're in this new space, and so every ground they cover, that's a win.
Yeah, and the way we try to tell them is, look, it might not be 100% perfect all of the time, and that's fine. You can wait till it is, but you might be waiting a few years, and by then, all your competitors they're okay with that little 1%, 0.5% of gray area. And you're probably going to be left behind to an extent, right? So it's better to just get started now. And eventually it will get close to perfect, but you don't want to wait till it does because then you'll be behind.
Yeah, absolutely. What, in terms of your business, when a customer comes to you, is there, can you talk a bit about the difference between somebody asking for something that you go, that's a thing we can achieve and that's going to be a service we can provide and they'll be happy with it, versus we're like, I think they might be a little bit out of touch about what AI is offering?
Yeah. One thing we've noticed a lot is some customers, they might not have a traffic source, for example. So they don't get a lot of traffic to their website. They're not even running paid ads. They're not even doing any outreach in terms of cold email or phone calling, things like that. And they kind of just request, can you generate my business leads and clients with AI? And the way I kind of approach it is, well, what's your traffic source, right? So, I mean, I can set up an outreach campaign, but you haven't even tested it manually to see if it works. So we could use AI, but likely it's not really a good investment right now because you could invest thousands and thousands of dollars into this, but if it doesn't even work manually, why would it work with AI? So that's one big thing is people think you can just kind of throw AI at your business and it'll bring in hundreds of leads, but if you don't have a traffic source, it's not going to help you.
Okay. And what is your recommendation to folks like that?
Yeah. So for example, like if they have a website where they get maybe a couple visits a week, a few visits a month, if they ask for a landing page chatbot, I'll just be honest and tell them realistically, it's probably not going to help you, right? Like you don't even have customers that are coming in from your website, so you don't need this. So I kind of sit down with them and try to help them, build, and we can help them do these things too, but it is a different service, right? And it's not exactly AI yet. So it's kind of tying into what I mentioned before, where, we can help a customer build out their software stack, and that has nothing to do with AI, but eventually it'll enable us to use AI. So if they're open to that, we're always open to working with them.
How do you feel it's been for you to leave your services open ended and be like, well, we kind of do everything? If I were starting a business, that would intimidate me a little bit.
It's very intimidating. It's, like I said, it's very chaotic. The way I kind of see it, you have to have kind of a lot of shallow knowledge, at least on a lot of topics. But the good thing is you can always pull in experts, and there's always experts out there that you can contract and learn from. And we are experts in a lot of specific areas, but you do have to have a lot of knowledge on different pieces of a business. And for the most part, it's also very interesting though, because you never get bored. So that's the good part. But it is chaotic.
That's the thing that people don't talk about. We talk about AI kind of automating away different skills and people maybe losing them over time. What we don't talk about is the fact that AI makes it so easy to acquire skills. It gives you that little push you need to go out and learn the technicalities of a new discipline.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, like we use AI just as much ourselves, right? So like you're saying, you can use it to learn a lot of really deep skills. And to some extent, I kind of see a trend in, if you're a generalist, you'll be a lot more effective and impactful for a lot of businesses, because you can use AI to get you that final 20, 30, 40% of knowledge. You don't have to go all in learning one skill, because with AI, it speeds skill learning up so much that you can afford to have shallow knowledge. And then when you need it, study up for a week, 2 weeks, and you learn.
Okay, that's great that you said that, because it kind of brings me into my last question,
Yeah.
which is, before we go, I want to ask you if you have advice for people who have a comfortable understanding of AI and have some inspiration about something they might want to do and market in the AI space. Do you have advice for them?
Yeah, I think, leading off that last point is be a generalist. Be really okay with not knowing every little specific detail about everything you want to offer. And you have to be super open-ended and dynamic in terms of what you offer. And realistically, if you're interested in starting a business and you're interested in making a good amount of money, that's where a lot of the money is going to be. It's going to be in these weird integrations with these old servers that you don't want to touch, and it's scary. But that's where the most difficult part comes in, and usually difficult problems get paid a lot to the people that solve them. So if you can be a generalist, you can accept really any type of problem. You're not scared of shying away from certain things just because they're not in your wheelhouse. I think you're going to succeed a lot more than someone that just wants to stick to their one, chatbot offer, and go from there, because you're just closing a lot of doors for yourself.
Yeah. So no one starts off an expert, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's always changes. So even if you become an expert, your expert title might be obsolete in 3 months. So you can't always rely on it.
The innovations in AI, they're kind of the ultimate equalizer. The advantage is to be somebody who's prepared and able to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, anyway, Matea, thank you so much for doing this. This has been a really wonderful talk.
This was great. Yeah, I appreciate it.